Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
It's that time again. I want you to tune your memory up because it is time for a God on the Go car quiz. You're listening to God on the Go. I'm your host, Julie Lyles Carr. We're part of the Purposely Podcast Network, and we want to help you make the minutes matter. We have been in a series on distractions and how distractions can keep us from following up with all kinds of things in our world and what God says that we can do about it. So, in the car quiz, every week we share with you a little bit of trivia. And in the car quiz, we ask you about that trivia question. So you ready? I want to see how well you can do when it comes to trivia about distractions. Okay, in our first episode, we talked about getting distracted away from our responsibilities. And we talked about how in the Bible, Nehemiah, he was so great at being focused. He went to go repair the wall of the city of Jerusalem, and he just told people, hey, I'm doing a great work, and I can't come down. He was not willing to get distracted from his responsibility. The trivia question was, how much time do we waste every day by getting distracted? Are you ready for the answer? Over 2 hours. Oh, and I can feel it in myself. You may too. There are times that I get so distracted. So 2 hours a day, that's the average. I'm trying to get better and better. I hope you are too. Okay, in our second episode on distractions, we talked about not getting distracted with our time. And I confess to you that, boy, when it comes to a great book, I can get really distracted with my time because I'll stay up really late reading that book, and then that can impact the next day and the next. So here is the trivia question. What was the first clock invented? Here's the answer. The Egyptians used sundials and water clocks from almost 3,000 years ago. That was how they marked time. Here's another place we get distracted. We can get really distracted with what we think is fair or what is unfair. And we talked about the story in the Bible that Jesus told about two brothers. One of them went off and spent all of his inheritance and did all kinds of bad things. The other brother stayed home and did what he was supposed to. And when that brother who had gone away came back, and their dad went out to greet him and was so excited, the other brother, the brother who'd stayed home, he didn't appreciate that very much. He felt that was really unfair. And he got distracted by how much his dad loved him because he was so focused on what was fair or unfair. Now, part of what we talked about in that is that when we get distracted by what we think somebody else is getting that we want, or we think something's unfair, it takes us out of our lane. It's like if we're driving and we're supposed to be on a particular road, and then all of a sudden, instead of seeing the things that God has for us, we get into a different lane. So that's why we asked this trivia question. What percent of all car crashes are caused by being distracted? Answer is almost 30%. That's a lot. Keep those eyes on the road. Stay in your lane. Keep your hands on the wheel. Okay, then we talked about distractions with friends. You know, we can get distracted when a newer friend comes along, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't make a newer friend. It just means we shouldn't forget our other friends, our older friends who've been with us for a long time. Here was the question. When do most of our important friendships begin? Research says that 50% of your friendships begin when you're between the ages of 5 and 10. You are going to have people in your life, most likely, even as you get older, even when you go to college, get married, all the things, that friendship with that person may have started when you were between the ages of 5 and 10 years old. That's pretty amazing. Okay, we can get distracted with criticism. We can get distracted away from the things that we love to do or feel called to do because we're worried somebody might criticize us. Here was the question. How many positive things should you say for every one thing you need to critique someone on? You ready? Research shows that you should say at least 6 positive things for every 1 correction you need to make. So if you're getting ready to tell your sibling something or your friend something that you think they need to fix or that you're a little concerned about, remember, you should balance it out with 6 positive things before you say your critique. Okay, here's the last one. We can get distracted away from what's most important. And here was the trivia question. How much has the average human attention span dropped in the last 15 years? 25%. Whew. That means we are paying far less attention than we were just 15 years ago. And there are those who say if that trend continues, with as much distraction as we have in our world today, that number could be even bigger. Okay, we're going to be back with a new series next week. Can't wait for you to experience that. Be sure and text the word GO to 89419. You know the drill. This is where you can get trivia questions and memory verses and conversation questions, all kinds of great stuff. So be sure and text GO to 89419. And a big thanks to George Fox University. At George Fox University, each student will be known personally, academically, and spiritually. I'll see you next week.